Uncle Richard hurls his wine glass against the dining room wall, burgundy liquid dripping down family photos. Cousin Brad screams accusations about me hiding my wealth, while the family treated me like a failure. My mother sits frozen fork halfway to her mouth as 23 relatives stare in stunned silence. The crystal chandelier catches the light from the shattered glass on the hardwood floor. This moment destroys everything I thought I knew about family loyalty and sets the stage for revelations that will reshape every relationship at that table. 3 hours earlier, before the explosion that would change everything, I sat at the kids' table even though I'm 28 years old. That's how things worked in our family. Brad got the adult table because he had the Goldman Sachs internship, the Stanford degree, and Uncle Richard's constant praise. I got squeezed between my 12-year-old nephew and my teenage cousin who kept checking her phone. Let me take you back 18 months to help you understand how we got here. Brad was always Uncle Richard's masterpiece. While I worked 3 jobs to scrape through state college, Brad received private SAT tutoring that cost more than my entire semester's textbooks. His test prep alone ran $8,000, and Uncle Richard paid it without blinking. When Brad turned 16, he got a brand new BMW convertible with leather seats and a premium sound system. When I turned 16, I got my grandfather's rusted pickup truck that needed a new transmission within 6 months. The truck died completely my senior year, and I spent the winter riding my bike 12 miles to my after-school job at the hardware store. Brad's 18th birthday party looked like a wedding reception. Uncle Richard rented the country club ballroom, hired a DJ, and invited 200 people. They had a chocolate fountain professional photographer and a highlight reel of Brad's achievements projected on a massive screen. When I turned 18, my mom baked a cake, and we had dinner at Applebee's with my grandparents. College applications revealed the true scope of family investment in Brad's future. He applied to 12 elite schools with application fees totaling $960. Uncle Richard also paid for a college admissions consultant who charged $3,000 to optimize Brad's essays and extracurricular presentation. Meanwhile, I applied to 4 state schools and worked extra shifts at the coffee shop to cover the application costs myself. Brad's acceptance to Stanford came with celebration champagne and immediate planning for his dorm room setup. Uncle Richard spent $4,000 on furniture, electronics, and bedding before Brad even arrived on campus. My acceptance to the regional state university was acknowledged with a congratulatory card containing $50 in advice to make the most of this opportunity. During college, the contrast became even starker. Brad called home every Sunday to describe his internship's networking events and study abroad opportunities. He spent junior year in London posting photos from weekend trips to Paris, Rome, and Barcelona. Uncle Richard covered all expenses, calling it essential global perspective for future business leaders. I spent those same months working morning shifts at a campus coffee shop afternoon, tutoring sessions with struggling high school students, and weekend catering gigs that paid cash under the table. My studio apartment had a leaky ceiling that I patched with duct tape because I couldn't afford maintenance calls. The walls were so thin I could hear my neighbors' conversations, but the rent was $200 less than anywhere else within walking distance of campus. Family dinners during college became showcases for Brad's achievements. He'd describe his professors who were former Fortune 500 executives, his classmates whose families owned major corporations, and his research projects that impressed department heads. Extended family members hung on every word, asking detailed questions about his academic performance and future plans. When conversation turned to me, the questions carried different undertones. Aunts would ask if I was keeping up with my studies and whether I needed help with anything. Uncles would mention entry-level positions at their companies, suggesting I should consider practical career paths that offered stability rather than chasing unrealistic dreams. Brad's graduation ceremony was a 3-day celebration. Uncle Richard flew out to California, stayed at a luxury hotel, and hosted a dinner party for Brad's professors and classmates. The event cost more than my entire college education, but Uncle Richard called it a worthy investment in his son's networking foundation. My graduation was acknowledged with a card in the mail and a phone call congratulating me on finally finishing. No one attended the ceremony because Uncle Richard said cross-country travel was expensive, and my accomplishment wasn't quite the same caliber as Brad's Stanford achievement. Brad's post-graduation job search involved leveraging family connections, alumni networks, and professors' recommendations. Uncle Richard made phone calls to business associates, arranged informational interviews, and even hired a career coach to help Brad negotiate salary packages. The family celebrated when Brad landed his consulting position, treating it as validation of years of careful investment and planning. My job search involved online applications, generic cover letters, and occasional responses requesting more experience than any recent graduate could possess. I eventually found work at a small marketing firm that paid $32,000 annually with minimal benefits and no clear advancement path. Family gatherings became increasingly difficult as Brad's success story grew more elaborate. He'd describe business trips to major cities, client presentations to corporate executives, and professional development opportunities that positioned him for rapid advancement. Uncle Richard would beam with pride occasionally, mentioning how proper education and family support created such outstanding results. The breaking point came at Brad's Stanford graduation party when Uncle Richard handed him a check for $25,000 as a career launch gift. Uncle Richard announced to the assembled guests that successful young professionals needed substantial financial foundation to capitalize on opportunities and establish themselves in competitive markets. I watched from the corner of the room, calculating that $25,000 represented 8 months of my current salary, while secretly eating ramen noodles 4 nights a week to afford new work clothes. That night, I made a decision that would change everything, though I had no idea how dramatically it would reshape our family dynamics. The golden child had received everything handed to him on a silver platter, but I was about to discover that building something from nothing creates strength that no amount of family money can purchase. While Brad was celebrating his Goldman Sachs internship with expensive dinners and networking events, I was secretly developing a revolutionary app in my cramped studio apartment, surviving on 4 hours of sleep nightly, and discovering that desperation breeds innovation in ways comfort never could. My breakthrough came during my weekend catering jobs, which the family considered temporary work beneath my education level. I noticed restaurant owners constantly struggling with inventory waste delivery coordination and supplier communication failures that cost them thousands of dollars monthly. These small business owners faced problems that seemed impossible to solve with their limited resources and time constraints. Maria Gonzalez owned a family Mexican restaurant 3 blocks from my apartment, where I picked up catering orders twice weekly. She worked 16-hour days managing everything from food preparation to customer service, but her biggest frustration was predicting ingredient needs. Too little meant disappointed customers and lost revenue. Too much meant spoiled food and wasted money that her thin profit margins couldn't absorb. One evening, Maria mentioned losing $1,200 worth of fresh produce because an unexpected rainstorm kept customers home during what should have been their busiest weekend. She explained how weather local events, sports schedules, and even social media trends affected customer traffic in ways that seemed random and unpredictable. That conversation sparked an idea that consumed my thoughts for weeks. I started researching data patterns, weather correlations, and inventory management systems during my breaks between classes and work shifts. Most existing solutions cost thousands of dollars monthly and required complex integration that small restaurants couldn't afford or maintain. I taught myself programming languages through free online courses, staying awake until 3 a.m. watching tutorials and practicing code, while Brad posted Instagram photos from Silicon Valley networking mixers. My learning curve was steep because I had no computer science background, but desperation and curiosity drove me through frustrations that would have stopped someone with more comfortable alternatives. My first prototype was crude but functional. I created a system that analyzed historical sales data alongside weather forecasts, local event calendars, and seasonal patterns to predict restaurant traffic with surprising accuracy. The algorithm wasn't sophisticated, but it identified patterns that human intuition often missed. I approached Maria with my concept during a particularly slow Tuesday evening when she was complaining about ordering too much fish that would spoil before the weekend crowd arrived. I offered to test my system for free, asking only that she track results and provide feedback about accuracy and usefulness. Within 3 weeks, Maria's food costs dropped by $8,000, while her customer satisfaction improved because popular items stayed in stock during peak periods. She was amazed that my simple system could predict busy nights better than her 20 years of restaurant experience, especially when it correctly anticipated increased demand during a local festival she'd forgotten was scheduled. Word spread through the local restaurant association when Maria enthusiastically recommended my system to other struggling owners. I started charging modest fees, reinvesting everything into improving the platform, and adding features that addressed specific pain points I discovered through client feedback. The exhaustion was overwhelming as I maintained my secret double life. Family gatherings became elaborate performances where I pretended to struggle financially while actually managing a growing client base and developing sophisticated business relationships. When Brad complained about his demanding internship schedule, I bit my tongue about working 80-hour weeks building something from scratch with no safety net or family support. My first major breakthrough came when Giuseppe Romano, owner of a regional Italian restaurant chain with 7 locations, heard about my system through Maria's recommendation. Giuseppe's operation was large enough to have significant purchasing power, but small enough that inventory waste seriously impacted profitability. Giuseppe tested my platform across 3 locations for 2 months before implementing it chain-wide. The results exceeded both our expectations. Food waste dropped 37% while customer satisfaction scores increased because popular dishes stayed available throughout service periods. Giuseppe paid me $47,000, over 6 months more than my 3 regular jobs combined. Still, I told nobody about my success, afraid family members would dismiss it as luck or suggest I was foolish for leaving stable employment to chase uncertain opportunities. The irony was painful when Uncle Richard offered to help me find real work with better benefits and advancement potential. My system's effectiveness caught attention beyond individual restaurants. Regional food distributors started hearing about restaurants that dramatically improved their ordering accuracy and inventory turnover. 2 major companies approached me about licensing my algorithms for their existing customer bases. By last Christmas, while everyone worried about my financial future, and Uncle Richard suggested I should ask Brad for career advice, I had already saved $112,000 and was negotiating with 2 national food service companies interested in licensing my technology platform. The hardest part wasn't building the business or managing clients. The hardest part was sitting through family dinners where Brad received praise for achievements that represented less than I accomplished in typical months, while everyone assumed I was struggling to find direction in life. But I was about to discover that success attracts attention in ways I never anticipated, and that keeping secrets becomes exponentially more difficult as the stakes get higher. My small restaurant app caught the attention of Food Flow Systems, a Fortune 500 food distribution company, but their offer to buy me out for $3 million was just the beginning of a bidding war I never expected and couldn't have imagined in my wildest dreams. The call came on a Tuesday morning while I was restocking coffee supplies at my campus job. Jennifer Martinez, Food Flow's VP of Technology Innovation, had heard about my platform through their restaurant clients who were achieving unprecedented inventory efficiency. She wanted to schedule a meeting to discuss acquisition opportunities. I nearly dropped the phone when she mentioned $3 million as an opening figure. That amount represented more money than anyone in my family had ever possessed, including Uncle Richard's insurance agency that he'd built over 25 years. But Jennifer explained this was preliminary interest based on limited information, and actual valuation would require comprehensive due diligence. Within 2 weeks, I was sitting in boardrooms, wearing my one good suit, negotiating with executives who earned more in annual bonuses than most people made in entire careers. The experience was surreal because I still lived in my studio apartment with the leaky ceiling, eating grocery store pasta while discussing multi-million-dollar business transactions. Agricultural Solutions Incorporated entered the bidding after their analysts identified my platform's potential beyond restaurant applications. Their research suggested my predictive algorithms could optimize farm-to-table supply chains, reducing waste throughout the entire food production cycle. Their initial offer reached $4.2 million with additional performance incentives. National restaurant partners saw even broader possibilities, envisioning my system scaled across their 15,000 franchise locations. Their proposal included $7.5 million upfront plus ongoing licensing fees that could generate additional revenue for decades. The numbers were staggering compared to my previous financial reality. Managing competing offers while maintaining absolute secrecy became increasingly complicated. I hired Patricia Chen, a business attorney who specialized in technology acquisitions, and opened multiple LLC accounts to establish proper corporate structure. The legal fees alone exceeded what I'd earned during my highest grossing month at all 3 part-time jobs combined. The stress of hiding such massive success became overwhelming during family gatherings, when Brad described his post-graduation job search and Uncle Richard offered connections through his modest professional network. I wanted to reassure them that I was fine, but revealing the truth would have created complications I wasn't prepared to navigate. Instead of accepting buyout offers, I made a strategic decision that surprised everyone involved. I rejected immediate cash payments in favor of licensing deals that would generate ongoing revenue streams while maintaining ownership of my intellectual property. This approach would prove more profitable long-term while giving me continued control over my platform's development. My expansion into healthcare food services opened entirely new markets that none of us had initially considered. Hospitals faced complex dietary requirements, patient volume fluctuations, and strict regulatory compliance that created perfect testing grounds for advanced algorithmic solutions. Success in healthcare led to opportunities with educational institutions and corporate dining facilities. St. Mary's Regional Medical Center became my first healthcare client after their food service director, Robert Thompson, heard about my restaurant successes through industry connections. Hospitals operate around the clock with unpredictable patient loads, dietary restrictions, and nutritional requirements that make inventory planning extremely challenging. My system's ability to predict patient census dietary needs and special requirement volumes impressed hospital administrators who were accustomed to significant food waste and frequent shortages of specific items. Within 6 months, St. Mary's food costs dropped 23%, while patient satisfaction scores increased because therapeutic diets remained available when needed. Word spread through healthcare networks, and I soon had contracts with 3 major hospital systems across 2 states. Healthcare clients paid premium rates because my platform addressed regulatory compliance issues while improving patient care outcomes. The complexity of their requirements justified higher fees that restaurant clients couldn't afford. Educational institutions presented another lucrative market segment. School districts and universities needed to predict cafeteria demand while managing nutritional requirements, budget constraints, and seasonal variations in student populations. My platform's ability to incorporate academic calendars, sports schedules, and special events into demand forecasting proved invaluable for education food services. Corporate dining facilities offered the highest profit margins, because they served predictable populations with stable schedules and consistent preferences. Office buildings, manufacturing plants, and technology campuses needed reliable food service that could accommodate meeting schedules, shift changes, and corporate events without excessive waste or shortages. The contracts kept growing larger and more sophisticated. Tech giant Morrison Industries signed a deal worth $800,000 annually to manage food services across their 12 campus locations. Their complex requirements included accommodating dietary restrictions, cultural preferences, and variable staffing levels that changed seasonally. My platform's success attracted attention from private equity firms interested in scaling successful technology companies. Harrison Capital Management approached me with acquisition proposals that valued my business at unprecedented levels, but I wasn't ready to sell something I'd built from nothing in my studio apartment. By the time Thanksgiving approached, my annual recurring revenue had exceeded $4 million, with 18-month projections reaching $8.7 million. The platform served over 200 clients across multiple industries, employed 6 full-time developers, and generated more monthly profit than Uncle Richard's insurance agency earned annually. Yet I still sat at the kids' table during family gatherings, listening to Brad describe his $38,000 starting salary while receiving congratulations from relatives who had no idea their struggling family member was building a technology empire that would soon be valued at $27 million. The irony was becoming unbearable, but I was about to discover that family dynamics built on assumptions and misconceptions can explode in ways that change everything permanently. 3 weeks before Thanksgiving, I discovered Uncle Richard had been bad-mouthing me to extended family members, calling me the disappointment and suggesting I was wasting my potential while Brad represented the family's future and everything parents hoped their children could accomplish. I overheard the phone conversation while visiting my mother to help with yard work that she couldn't manage alone. Uncle Richard's voice carried through the kitchen window as he talked to Aunt Susan about family dynamics and his concerns about my direction in life. "James is a good kid, but he's just not applying himself," Uncle Richard said, while I raked leaves beneath the open window. "Brad works hard, sets goals, and achieves results. James seems content with these little part-time jobs that don't lead anywhere meaningful." The conversation continued for 20 minutes, as Uncle Richard expressed worry about my lack of ambition and suggested the family should stage an intervention about my concerning lifestyle choices. He specifically mentioned that I might become a burden on family members who had worked hard to establish financial stability and professional success. "It's not fair to Brad that James might expect career advice or financial assistance," Uncle Richard explained to Aunt Susan. "Brad shouldn't have to carry the weight of helping someone who won't help themselves. We need to protect our successful children from enabling dependent behavior." Uncle Richard's concerns extended beyond immediate family members. He'd been discussing my situation with cousins, aunts, and uncles, creating a narrative where I represented everything parents feared their children might become without proper guidance and motivation. Brad had become the success story while I served as the cautionary tale. The conversation revealed Uncle Richard's suggestions that I should consider trade school, military service, or other structured environments that might develop the discipline and direction he believed I lacked. He'd researched programs that accepted adults in their 20s who needed career redirection and were willing to discuss options with my mother. Hearing family members analyze my perceived failures while I generated more monthly revenue than Uncle Richard's insurance agency earned annually was emotionally devastating. The man calling me directionless had no idea that 3 Fortune 500 companies were competing to acquire technology I'd developed in my spare time. I researched Uncle Richard's financial situation and discovered his insurance agency's annual revenue was approximately $1.8 million, with profit margins around 12%. My business generated more quarterly revenue than his agency earned in entire years, yet he was positioning himself as the family's financial wisdom authority. Brad's salary, while respectable for a new graduate, represented less than I paid in quarterly business taxes. His consulting position offered good advancement potential, but his current compensation was smaller than typical monthly payments from my major clients. The mathematical comparison would have been laughable if the emotional impact wasn't so painful. The internal struggle between revealing my success and protecting my privacy intensified as family members prepared for Thanksgiving gatherings. I knew the dinner conversation would center on career achievements, future plans, and family success stories that position Brad as the golden child while treating me as the concerning relative who needed intervention. My mother's attempts to defend me during these family discussions were well-intentioned, but missed the mark completely. She emphasized my work ethic, kindness, and reliability without knowing that those exact qualities had enabled me to build a multi-million-dollar business from nothing while maintaining humility and authentic relationships. James is a hard worker who treats people well, my mother would say during phone conversations with relatives. Success isn't just about money and status. Character matters too, and James has wonderful character. She was absolutely right, but her defense reinforced the family's perception that I was a good person who lacked professional ambition and financial success. Nobody understood that my character and work ethic had created unprecedented business achievements that I was choosing to keep private. The breaking point arrived via certified mail on the same day Uncle Richard called my mother to suggest organizing a family meeting about my concerning lack of direction and financial stability. Harrison Capital Management's acquisition offer valued my company at $27 million with terms that would make me wealthier than anyone in our family's history. I sat in my studio apartment holding a document that represented life-changing money while Uncle Richard planned interventions to help me develop basic career direction. The irony was overwhelming, but I realized that Thanksgiving dinner would force me to choose between continuing this charade and defending my dignity once and for all. The choice was about to be made for me in ways I never anticipated, because family dynamics built on false assumptions can only withstand so much pressure before they explode completely. The Thanksgiving dinner conversation took an unexpected turn when Aunt Patricia innocently asked me about my job situation, and Brad interrupted to offer career advice, triggering the moment I finally decided to speak my truth and shatter every assumption my family had built about my life. 23 family members gathered around tables in Uncle Richard's spacious dining room, surrounded by expensive artwork and furniture that demonstrated his insurance agency's success. The conversation naturally centered on achievements, career progression, and future plans that showcased family accomplishments and aspirations. Brad commanded attention as he described his new consulting position downtown Seattle apartment and plans for MBA programs that would accelerate his advancement into senior management roles. Extended family members asked detailed questions about his client projects, professional networking opportunities, and salary progression timeline. The consulting industry offers incredible learning experiences, Brad explained while cutting his turkey with confident precision. I'm working with Fortune 500 companies on strategic initiatives that impact their entire operations. My project manager says I have natural leadership abilities that position me for rapid promotion. Uncle Richard beamed with pride as Brad described business trips to major cities, presentations to corporate executives, and professional development seminars that expanded his industry knowledge. The family celebration felt like validation of years of careful investment in Brad's education and career foundation. Cousin Sarah mentioned Brad's networking skills and suggested other young family members could benefit from his connections and professional insights. Aunt Margaret asked about Brad's 5-year plan, nodding approvingly when he outlined goals for senior consultant status and eventual partnership track positioning. When conversation shifted toward me, the questions carried completely different undertones that revealed family assumptions about my situation and prospects. Aunt Patricia's inquiry about my job situation was well-intentioned, but loaded with implications about instability and lack of clear direction. "Are you still doing those various part-time jobs, James?" Aunt Patricia asked while passing the stuffing. "Have you considered looking for something more stable with benefits and advancement opportunities? The economy is good right now for people willing to work hard." Cousin Sarah immediately offered suggestions about leveraging Brad's professional connections for informational interviews or entry-level positions at reputable companies. Brad knows people in different industries who might be willing to help you get started somewhere with growth potential. Uncle Richard mentioned knowing someone at the regional bank who might consider me for customer service positions that offered decent pay and professional development training. It's not glamorous work, but it teaches business fundamentals and provides steady income while you figure out your long-term direction. The well-meaning suggestions felt like gentle interventions designed to guide me toward conventional career paths that offered security and respectability. Every comment reinforced the family narrative that I was a good person who needed help finding professional focus and financial stability. Brad, emboldened by family support and confident in his own success, began offering unsolicited career advice that demonstrated his complete misunderstanding of my actual situation. His tone carried the condescension of someone who believed he'd figured out life while others were still struggling with basic direction. "The key is building a professional network," Brad explained while gesturing with his wine glass. "Young professionals need mentorship and guidance from people who understand how business really works. You can't just hope opportunities will appear without making strategic connections." Brad continued his lecture about setting realistic financial goals, developing marketable skills, and positioning yourself for advancement in competitive industries. He suggested I should be grateful for family members willing to help me figure out my life direction, and mentioned that successful people have obligations to guide those who are struggling. The phrase "those who are struggling" echoed in my mind as I calculated my company's daily revenue stream, which exceeded Brad's monthly salary. His advice about professional networking was particularly ironic because my client base included executives from companies much larger than his consulting firm's typical accounts. My internal war between protecting family relationships and defending my dignity reached a critical threshold as Brad's condescension escalated. Every suggestion felt like another layer of misunderstanding that I'd allowed to build by maintaining my privacy about business achievements that transformed my financial reality. "James, you're smart and hardworking," Brad said, with the patronizing tone of an older brother addressing a struggling sibling. "You just need focus and direction. I'd be happy to review your resume and provide interview coaching. Sometimes an outside perspective helps identify strengths you don't recognize yourself." The breaking point arrived when Brad suggested that I should appreciate family members who cared enough to offer guidance during my transitional period. He implied that my current situation was temporary confusion, that proper mentorship could resolve positioning himself as the successful family member with wisdom to share. The important thing is not giving up. Brad continued his unsolicited counseling session. "Everyone finds their path eventually, and having family support makes the process easier. You're lucky to have people who want to help you succeed." I sat quietly holding my fork and calculating that my quarterly tax payments exceeded Brad's entire annual salary while he explained how lucky I was to receive career guidance from someone who understood professional success. The condescension became unbearable when he offered to introduce me to entry-level contacts who might consider me for positions with growth potential. That's when I calmly interrupted Brad's career advice to announce that my various part-time jobs had generated $27 million in business value, that 3 Fortune 500 companies were competing to acquire my technology platform, and that my quarterly tax payments exceeded his annual salary. The silence that followed was absolute and devastating, broken only by Uncle Richard's wine glass shattering against the wall as he exploded with accusations of lying and attention-seeking behavior designed to humiliate the family. Uncle Richard's wine glass shattered against the wall with enough force to crack the picture frame holding Brad's Stanford graduation photo, but the real shock came when I pulled out my phone and showed the acquisition offer's bank statements and client contracts that proved every word was true. The immediate aftermath unfolded like a slow-motion catastrophe that nobody could stop or reverse. Uncle Richard's face cycled through confusion, anger, and embarrassment as he processed information that contradicted everything he believed about family dynamics and success hierarchies. "This is impossible," Uncle Richard stammered while burgundy wine dripped down the dining room wall. "You're living in that tiny apartment working at coffee shops. Nobody builds multi-million-dollar companies in secret while pretending to struggle financially." I unlocked my phone and displayed the Harrison Capital Management acquisition offer with calm precision that silenced every doubt and objection. The document showed my legal name, company details, and valuation figures that were impossible to fabricate or misinterpret. 23 family members leaned forward to examine the screen, their expressions shifting from skepticism to amazement as they processed numbers that exceeded anything they'd ever imagined possible. The document was official, detailed, and undeniably authentic in ways that transformed their understanding of reality. Brad sat frozen with his fork halfway to his mouth, his career advice hanging in the air like a bad joke that nobody found funny. The consultant who'd been lecturing me about professional networking was staring at acquisition offers from companies 10 times larger than his firm's biggest clients. Aunt Patricia apologized repeatedly for her job situation question. Her face flushed with embarrassment about treating me like someone who needed career intervention. "James, I had no idea. We all thought you were struggling to find direction. Why didn't you tell us about your success?" Cousin Sarah's expression evolved from pity to something resembling awe as she examined my phone screen and compared my business achievements to anything our family had accomplished. Her suggestions about leveraging Brad's connections suddenly seemed absurd given the scope of my professional network. My mother covered her mouth with both hands, torn between pride in my accomplishments and shock that her son had kept such massive success secret for so long. She'd spent months defending my character while having no idea that my business empire was generating more revenue than most established companies. Uncle Richard's explosion focused on feeling deceived and manipulated by someone he'd trusted to be honest about their circumstances. His accusations revealed deep insecurities about his own modest success compared to achievements that redefined our family's financial landscape. "You made us all worry about your future while you were secretly building wealth that makes our entire family look like amateurs," Uncle Richard shouted while pointing at wine stains on his expensive carpet. "What kind of person pretends to struggle while laughing at everyone else's concerns?" The confrontation escalated as Uncle Richard's wounded pride transformed into aggressive hostility that searched for ways to diminish my achievements or find fault with my choices. He accused me of psychological manipulation, designed to make family members feel foolish about their own accomplishments. Brad's reaction evolved from shock to defensive anger as he struggled with suddenly being repositioned from family success story to modest achiever whose advice was irrelevant. His carefully constructed identity as the golden child crumbled when confronted with business success that dwarfed his consulting career. "Why did you need to hide this from us?" Brad demanded with rising voice that cracked under emotional pressure. "Were you enjoying watching us worry about your future? Did it make you feel superior to let us think you needed help?" I attempted to explain my reasons for maintaining privacy, emphasizing that I wanted to avoid unwanted attention, protect business relationships, and prevent family dynamics from becoming complicated by wealth disparities that could damage authentic connections. My explanation fell on deaf ears as emotions ran high and family members processed their shifted understanding of relationships they thought they knew. The revelation created cognitive dissonance that was difficult to resolve without questioning everything they'd assumed about success achievement and family hierarchies. Brad accused me of arrogance, and implied that my secrecy proved I thought I was better than everyone else in the family. You could have helped people instead of watching them struggle while you counted your millions in secret. That's not humble, that's cruel. The argument reached peak intensity when Brad declared that my behavior was manipulative and selfish, designed to stroke my ego while making others feel inadequate about their own achievements. He stood up from the table, throwing his napkin down with theatrical disgust. I don't need to sit here and listen to someone who thinks lying to family is acceptable behavior, Brad announced while pushing his chair back with enough force to knock over his water glass. Enjoy your money, James. I hope it was worth destroying everyone's trust. Brad stormed toward the front door, grabbing his coat with angry movements that demonstrated his emotional turmoil and wounded pride. Family members watched in stunned silence as the golden child prepared to make a dramatic exit from the ruins of Thanksgiving dinner. But as Brad reached his Tesla in the driveway, he discovered an envelope tucked under the windshield wiper with his name written in my handwriting. Inside was a receipt showing that I'd quietly paid off his remaining car loan 6 months ago, along with a note explaining that I wanted to help without creating awkwardness or obligation. The note read, Brad, I've always been proud of your achievements and wanted to support your success without making things weird between us. Family means everything to me, and your happiness matters more than any business accomplishment. I hope this small gesture helps you focus on your career without car payment stress. Love, James. Brad stood in the cold November air holding the receipt and note while tears streamed down his face, realizing that his anger was directed at someone who'd been secretly supporting him while enduring family criticism in silence. James's mother found Brad crying in his car, not from anger, but from overwhelming guilt about years of unconsciously looking down on the cousin who had been secretly supporting him, leading to an emotional breakthrough that would reshape our entire family dynamic forever. My mother approached Brad's Tesla with gentle concern, having watched him discover the note through the dining room window. She tapped softly on the driver's side glass and waited patiently while Brad composed himself enough to lower the window and face the conversation that needed to happen. He's been helping all of us, hasn't he? Brad asked through tears that had nothing to do with wounded pride and everything to do with recognizing his own blindness to someone's generosity. I've been treating him like he needed my advice while he was taking care of me. My mother nodded sadly, understanding that Brad's emotional breakdown represented something much deeper than embarrassment about the car loan. He was processing the painful realization that his entire perception of family relationships had been built on false assumptions and unconscious arrogance. Brad returned to the house carrying the note and receipt, his anger completely replaced by confusion and genuine remorse about years of treating me with subtle condescension. The golden child who'd received everything was discovering that the struggling cousin had been the one providing support all along. Family members gathered in the living room as Brad read my note aloud with a shaking voice that revealed his emotional vulnerability. The simple message about family meaning more than business accomplishments contradicted everything he'd assumed about my motivations and character. I decided this moment required complete transparency about other secret acts of generosity that I'd carefully hidden to avoid changing family dynamics or creating feelings of obligation that could damage authentic relationships. Brad's car loan wasn't the only thing, I admitted quietly while family members listened with growing amazement. Grandma's medical bills when insurance fell short last spring. The anonymous donation to Sarah's wedding fund when the original venue fell through. Mom's car repairs that mechanics claimed were covered by warranty or promotional pricing. Each revelation deepened the family's understanding of how wrong they'd been about my character and priorities. The man they'd considered directionless had been supporting multiple family members while building revolutionary business technology that attracted Fortune 500 acquisition interest. Uncle Richard's hostility dissolved as he processed the implications of my choices and recognized that his own son had benefited from generosity provided by someone he'd taught Brad to pity. The insurance agent who'd called me the disappointment was confronting evidence that I understood family loyalty better than anyone. "I've been such an ass," Uncle Richard said with tears in his eyes and genuine remorse in his voice. "I called you directionless while you were supporting our entire family and building something incredible. I owe you an apology that words can't express." I stood up and addressed the entire family, directly explaining my philosophy about wealth success and the relationships that actually matter in life. Money is just a tool. Business success means nothing if it destroys the people you love. I kept everything private because I wanted our relationships to stay authentic. My explanation emphasized that I'd always feared wealth would change family dynamics in negative ways, creating expectations, obligations, and power imbalances that could poison the connections I valued most. Keeping my success secret preserved the genuine affection and honest interactions that money often complicates. I apologize for causing confusion and worry. I continued while looking at each family member individually. But I stand behind my decision to prioritize privacy and authentic relationships over status recognition. Your love matters more than your awareness of my bank account. Brad interrupted my speech to offer his own apology that revealed genuine character growth and emotional maturity. "James, I've been incredibly arrogant and condescending. I assumed success meant I had wisdom to share when I should have been learning from your example about humility and generosity." The conversation that followed lasted 3 hours and included individual discussions between me and various family members who wanted to understand my choices and express their own feelings about the revelations that had transformed their understanding of our relationships. Uncle Richard asked forgiveness for undermining my reputation within the family and acknowledged that his own insecurities about his modest success had led him to position Brad as superior to someone whose achievements far exceeded anything our family had accomplished. My mother expressed pride mixed with concern about the pressure I'd faced maintaining such significant secrets while enduring family criticism and misunderstanding. She promised to support my choices regardless of whether she completely understood my reasoning. Extended family members shared their own guilt about treating me like someone who needed intervention when I'd actually been the family member providing support and demonstrating the strongest character. Their assumptions had been based on visible markers rather than actual understanding. Brad requested detailed conversations about how I'd built my business while maintaining such quiet dignity in the face of family misunderstanding. He wanted to learn from my example rather than continue assuming he had superior knowledge about professional success. As evening approached and family members prepared to leave, I made an announcement that surprised everyone and demonstrated my commitment to using success for positive family impact rather than personal aggrandizement. I'm establishing a family scholarship fund worth $5 million to support education and entrepreneurship among younger family members. I declared while watching their faces process this unexpected generosity. But recipients must demonstrate genuine effort and humility rather than just academic achievement. The scholarship conditions emphasized character development, community service, and respect for others, regardless of their circumstances or apparent success levels. I wanted future generations to understand that how you treat people during your journey matters more than what you achieve at the destination. The fund will support family members who work hard, treat others well, and remember that success without character is meaningless. I explained while thinking about my own experiences building business achievements while maintaining authentic relationships and genuine humility. Uncle Richard asked if he could contribute to the scholarship fund, wanting to demonstrate his own commitment to family values that prioritized character over status recognition. Brad offered to volunteer his time mentoring younger family members about professional development and career planning. The evening ended with family members sharing stories about times they'd misjudged people based on appearances rather than character, and discussing how they could create more supportive environments that valued authenticity over conventional success markers. Brad stayed after other relatives left, wanting private conversation about our relationship and his gratitude for support he'd never recognized or acknowledged. "I don't deserve your generosity, James. I've been treating you like someone who needed my help when you were the one helping me." I assured Brad that family relationships weren't transactional and that his happiness mattered to me regardless of our relative success levels or professional achievements. We're cousins who grew up together. "Your success makes me proud, and I hope my success makes you proud too." The most important lesson from our Thanksgiving disaster was that true success isn't measured by what you achieve, but by how you treat people during the journey toward your goals. Family relationships built on authentic love and respect are worth more than any business empire or professional accomplishment. Sometimes the greatest victory is maintaining your values while reaching your dreams. And the strongest thing you can do is help others succeed without needing credit for their achievements. Character reveals itself not through what you accumulate, but through how you use your blessings to lift up the people you love. Money and professional success are temporary, but the impact you have on other people's lives creates lasting legacy that extends far beyond quarterly earnings reports or acquisition offers. The real measure of a life well lived is whether you made the world better for the people who mattered most to you. I learned that keeping secrets can protect relationships, but sharing truth at the right moment can strengthen family bonds in ways that transform everyone involved. Brad and I are closer now than we've ever been, and Uncle Richard has become one of my strongest supporters and closest advisors. Our family gatherings are different now, focused on celebrating character and supporting each other's authentic goals rather than comparing conventional success markers or maintaining artificial hierarchies based on incomplete information about each other's lives. Before we finish, I want to ask you something that's been on my mind since sharing this story. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where people completely misjudged your abilities or circumstances? How did you handle being underestimated? And what did you learn about yourself in the process? I'd love to hear your experiences in the comments below. If this story resonated with you or reminded you of your own family dynamics, please hit the like button to let me know it connected with you. And if you enjoyed hearing about real-life situations where things aren't always what they seem, make sure to subscribe for more stories about overcoming challenges and finding success in unexpected ways. Finally, if you know someone who's been underestimated or who's working hard behind the scenes without recognition, please share this story with them. Sometimes we all need reminders that quiet persistence and authentic character matter more than visible achievements or family expectations. Thank you for listening to my story and for being part of a community that values genuine growth, family relationships, and the courage to stay true to yourself regardless of what others think. I hope your own journey brings you the kind of success that makes you proud while keeping the people you love close to your heart.